Henry VIII invented the Cupid shuffle.
Henry VIII. Down, down, do your dance, do your dance, do the Cupid dance. Down, down, do your dance, do your dance. Come on, don't stop. Down, down, do your dance. What the fuck? They say I'm a rapper.
This sounds like it would be a scene in like one of those like movies about Henry VIII where he's at court and it's like is very
it's like a Knight's Tale except with Henry VIII.
Oh my god!
Instead of "We Will Rock You," it's the Cupid Shuffle.
I mean, that's appropriate. That's how they danced.
God, I hope not.
No, it is. They totally did the Cupid Shuffle. Henry VIII invented it, like Jeff said.
It's true.
Look
it up.
Don't look it up.
Hey, welcome to Tudor. I hardly know her.
Where
the
you
show
just
that
should
only
trust.
has facts, and don't you ever dispute it.
You should trust everything we say, and never argue with us.
Never fact checked anything on this
Yeah,
show.
we have never been wrong, and
Nope.
we've never just been bullshitting.
Just trust me. Oh, except I was wrong last episode. I have 2 corrections.
we should probably have like a segment where it's like the correction segment at the beginning.
I mean, we used to. We just haven't in a while.
Wrong info on last episode.
But like if you have corrections you want to send to us, don't be mean about it.
Just
No,
tell us,
nobody.
just let us know.
Usually people aren't. I made a comment about Eleanor of Aquitaine last episode being alive, and I just straight up do not remember what I said. And somebody would like me to tell everybody that she was not alive in the 1300s. And you're totally right. I was, I literally just started a biography about Eleanor of Aquitaine. So sorry, my expertise is Tudor, not Eleanor. Eleanor, I hardly know her. And
That's the spin-off podcast.
Jeff, correction for you. Peter Falk had a false eye, not a lazy eye. Get your shit right.
See, I saw that and I looked at pictures of Peter Falk and I was like, like you can barely even tell that it's like that it's not a real eye. It's that squint, that signature squint that he had.
I'll trust you on that one. I don't really stare.
Jeff would know better than either of us.
Jeff's a connoisseur of false eyes.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got a collection. He's got Sammy Davis Jr.'s eyes, like just hanging out.
He's like Rocket Raccoon, except with eyeballs.
Sticking him up his butt. Anyway.
How's everybody doing? How's
Yay.
Garrett?
I'm doing great.
How's Garrett?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to learn some Tudor knowledge.
Good. How's Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. So this week we are going to talk a little bit more about Scotland because Monday was the anniversary of the Battle of Flodden.
Of what?
Flodden, not Floggen, not Floggen.
Flawed and Molly.
We are not flogging Molly. We're Flodden Holly.
Oh God.
Ugh.
What's the difference?
The Battle of Flodden was kind of badass for the English, and Katherine of Aragon, not so much for Scotland. So I know we've already talked about Scotland before, but today I really wanted to focus a little bit on the battles that happened in the Tudor reign, and there were 2 big ones. There was the Battle of Flodden and then the Battle of Solway Moss. And we've already talked about the rough wooing pretty frequently, so I'm not going to talk about that one because it's not really a battle. It was more of a, let's just fuck up Scotland for a couple of years until they agree to marry their queen to our prince. Totally legit tactic. So, as I said, Monday was the anniversary of the Battle of Flodden, and it was really this awesome moment for Katherine of Aragon. So border raids back then were pretty frequent, but it wasn't really an all-out war. There had been a battle during the Wars of the Roses or right before the Wars of the Roses, and it was in 1448, and that was the Battle of Sark. And in that battle, Scotland kicked ass. After that, though, things were not necessarily peaceful, but they weren't fighting. England was busy fighting itself over who should be king. And then when Henry VII came onto the throne, he was like, yo, I'm super fucking tired of all wars and I don't have the money to fight another one. So we're going to be a peaceful bunch of motherfuckers. How about that? And so he tried to create the Treaty of Perpetual Peace, which there were a lot of treaties of perpetual peace, and I'm beginning to think they don't understand the meaning of the word perpetual because they never really lasted.
Quick question that I just had and I thought of.
Yeah.
The border between England and Scotland.
Yeah.
Has that always been the same, or has it like shifted since that time? Or
I think it's always been the same.
Okay.
It's not like how England. God. So I told you guys I'm reading this Eleanor of Aquitaine book, and it is vastly upsetting how much territory England owned in what we now call France, compared to what they lived on in Henry VIII's time. Thanks a lot, Henry the Sixth, you piece of shit. But like basically they owned all of France for a little while, and then they done fucked it up. But no, the land, the border, I think was always the same. If anybody knows otherwise, please chime in on Twitter or Facebook and let me know.
That is always something I'm always like curious about, because you get some place like how nowadays like borders pretty much stay pretty much the same now, like unless something extreme happens, like when was it the USSR.
Back in the USSR.
Yeah, when that fell, like then all these new countries popped up that didn't exist. Like
yeah, but that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, historically speaking, it was
like what, the late 90s?
80s. The Berlin Wall fell in 89.
All I know is
and David Hasselhoff was there.
So the reason I didn't even know this information is because of Yakko's World from
I knew it was going to be Animaniacs.
Because I know that the song changed when all that happened.
Hey, Jeff, what's the song?
I'm not doing it.
Do a little bit. Just a little bit.
Crap, I actually don't know it.
Aww.
You can't put them on the spot like that.
United States, Canada, Mexico. I can't remember the first. I don't even remember the first
just
three.
Just edit it in.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greenland, El Salvador, too, Puerto Rico, Colombia.
I don't know the rest.
Fun fact about the voice actor who plays Yakko.
Rob Paulson.
Somebody once asked him if he made that song up on the spot.
He's like, yes. And next I'm about to go do a song about baseball cards.
Anyway.
He's a fun guy. Anyway.
Yeah, no, borders are very interesting if you even think about, I mean, look at the United States. We've slowly just engulfed more and more land. So Canada, you better watch out.
That's something I would love to actually learn about. It's just the what justifies the reason, like what defines a border a lot of times. Like you look at like United States, you have all these different states.
War.
Like what a lot of times it's the geography a lot of times, but then it's also just who said don't cross that line.
Geography and war. Garrett said war.
'Cause what's the weird state that has like the long handle sticking out? Is it Oklahoma or Nebraska?
California?
No, it's one of the middle states. It's like it looks like a pot.
Nevada, right? Nebraska?
I think it's Oklahoma. I don't know. We're getting
I don't
way
know.
off topic here.
I don't know. It's like it was like that.
It's
where
the one that's like a square, but with a big.
It just has this long, thin part that's considered that. So it's like cool.
It's like a square that's smoking a pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird to think about how borders are made. I don't know.
Who's gonna do that podcast?
Sorry, that was
how it's made.
Jeff
Borders.
really derailed us there.
Jeff's ADD's kicking in. So, back to Henry VII. So, Henry VII was like, I don't want to fight anymore. Let's do a peace treaty. And to show that I totally trust you, I'm going to let you marry my 12-year-old daughter. So,
good idea.
They created the peace. Luckily, Margaret Beaufort, Henry's mom, was like, 12 is a little young. If you remember, my vagina was wrecked by giving birth as a 13-year-old. So let's give her a couple of years. So she didn't go over until she was about 14. So hooray. And things were cool. Margaret was married to King James IV of Scotland, and Henry VII was like, okay, things are cool. Let's just have peace. And then Henry VIII was hopping on the throne, and he thought he was a badass, and so he just declared war on everyone like he was Oprah. You get a war, everybody gets a war.
Look under your seat. There's a war.
So here's a little bit of background. King Louis XIII invaded Italy in 1513. Is it really? No, it's not the 13th. One of the King Louis invaded Italy in 1513. So Henry, who hated France, was like, I'm going to join the Pope because they were still besties and the Holy Roman Emperor, and we're going to fuck shit up in France. Well, France and Scotland were besties. So Scotland was like, hey, I am James Franco and they are Seth Rogen. Please don't threaten my Seth Rogen. And Scotland declared war on England. So Henry was over in France trying to be badass. And also he was like, by the way, I'm also overlord of Scotland. So you guys owe me your fealty. So Scotland was not too pleased with France. They were encroaching on their bestie.
No, they would.
Yeah. So while Henry was in France, King James sent him a letter, his brother-in-law, saying, yo, could you not attack my buddy? You're breaching our treaty. Henry replied that James had no right to tell him to go home, and James should be an English ally instead of France's because he was married to Henry's sister, which kind of think he's got a legit point. What was the point of selling off your princesses to foreign countries as their wives if it didn't actually keep peace? But whatever.
Come on, you got one of our women. Everything's good.
You totally think that after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of this continually happening, here, marry my daughter. What, you want to go to war? Oh, well, I don't care about my daughter being in an awkward spot. You'd think somebody would look at that and be like,
is there a return policy?
Yes, Eleanor of Aquitaine can tell you about the return policy.
If not used within 90 days, please return with
Catherine
receipt.
of Aragon.
Please bring
Henry
back with a
VIII
certificate.
didn't have his receipt for Catherine of Aragon. So then a little bit more background. 1508, so about 5 years prior, Robert Kerr was the warden of the Scottish East Marsh. And he was a Scot. He was killed by John the Bastard Heron. And that's a fucking badass nickname. Like, I'm sure it was because he was like a legal bastard, but I also wonder if he was a little bit of an.
That guy's
that was
right
actually like his
bastard.
legit name.
That was his nickname, like John the Bastard. There was Edward.
Oh, I thought you were just
No.
again.
John the Bastard Heron. Like,
Okay.
there was Edward Longshanks, Richard the Lionheart, and John the Bastard.
Damn.
Yeah. But James was like, I know that was 5 years ago, but news travels slowly. And also now I'm pissed. So I'm going to invade England. So he took 30,000 men with him and invaded England. Now, 30,000 men is a lot by today's standards, I think. So imagine that. Imagine trying to get 30,000 motherfuckers together in Scotland in the 1500s. Wasn't really a surprise. Henry kind of expected it, and he'd already organized the north of England to have some artillery and a little bit of an army. So while Henry was battling his little heart out in France, he'd left Catherine as his regent, and she was a fucking badass. So while she was regent, she was basically king. She could do anything and everything. So when James was preparing to invade in August, she's like, all right, fine, let's rumble. And she issued warrants to seize all the property of all the Scots living in England. She's like, I'm going to take that because you're a Scot and I hate you. And then on September 3rd, she heard that he'd hopped the border and she ordered an army raised. Interesting note, battle apparently used to be very polite because James sent the English a notice 1 month in advance that he was going to invade. So he was like,
that's polite.
I know. Like, it was like a save the date. For
excuse me, are you guys free to get invaded?
He's like it's like a modern save the date with super cutesy romantic couple photos.
Send invitations.
But it's James.
Oh my god. So
What do you think?
that's why when they came like during Revolutionary War time when they were trying to fight us and they're like wearing their like organized coats and drums and our guys were just like hiding shoes. They're like, oh my god, they're cheating.
Yes, that is actually exactly why they were like, the British were like, this is not,
Wait a second. You never told us you were going to fight us today.
hold on a tick. We never got the formal invitation.
You have to file out Form B, and then you have to submit that to Supplement C.
So James sent them the save the date, and the English had time to gather their supplies and even their good luck banner. They had a banner of Saint Cuthbert. If we have a son, that's going to be his name, Cuthbert.
Cuthbert.
And
Call him Cuffy for short.
Cuffy, Bertie.
This sounds like
Come
we're
on,
just on a list.
Bert. Oh, what if he actually has a lisp?
Oh, that'd be so sad.
Oh. So then they had carried that banner in victories against the Scottish in the 1300s, and I guess they just folded it away and put it in their the box where they hide all the gifts from their in-laws that they only put on display once a year when they visit. But they went and got that, and that kind of got me thinking. Do you think they're like football players? Like you hear about football players who always wear like, it's my lucky jock strap, it's my lucky socks. I always wear these socks when I play, or like Shaq and no, not Shaq.
Michael Jordan.
Thank
Space
you.
Jam.
In
His,
Space
special
Jam,
jersey.
Garrett knows.
Oh, of course I know my Space Jam lore.
Garrett's
That's the other podcast we're going to start up.
Garrett's the guy running the Space Jam website right now.
Don't you forget it.
So James marched his ass through England, and he reached the village of Branxton, not Flodden, but whatever. And there he met the Earl of Surrey. And they agreed very cordially that on Friday at noon, between noon and 3, they would battle. And they would.
And then on 3, we'll break for lunch.
That would leave them enough time for tea and scones afterwards.
Oh.
And that is the most British thing I have found in this podcast, is that they agreed to a specific battle time. So James was on a hill, and as Obi-Wan Kenobi knows, if you're on a hill, you've got the high ground and you can't lose.
Yep.
So Surrey was like,
And
that's
they cut off their limbs.
Surrey was like, that's not fair. You agreed that we'd fight on the same ground. And James was like, you're an earl, I'm a king, fuck you, I do what I want. But then when they actually battled, James left the hill, and they hit marshy ground, which wasn't helpful at all, and things went to shit.
So this was a game of literal King of the Hill.
It was King of the Hill. That's where the game was invented. So this was one of the first major British engagements to use artillery significantly. They used cannons and bullets, but they also used pikes, swords, arrows, and bills. It wasn't all guns and cannons. One side I found says that it was really the fact that the Scottish were fighting with pikes that was a big contributor to their downfall. I looked it up, and like I think a pike is more like a scythe-looking motherfucker, and a bill was more like the stabby type thing. So
I thought a pike is more of just a spear.
Okay, so then yes. So that was the problem, and then they got caught in the marshy land, and they're like, I don't have enough room to swing. Could you guys back up a couple feet?
All right, everyone back up. I need to get a good range.
So either way, the Scottish lost, and they lost a lot. They lost 10,000 men. The English
Oh, Jesus.
only lost 4,000, and one site said as few as 1,500. And among the dead was King James IV.
Oh.
Oh.
On the field, the English were like, hey, let's take all the armor of the dead and sell it. So they did. They had like a fucking auction on the
War
bloody field.
profiteering.
And then they had a 24-page list of the horses they had taken from the Scottish that they were selling. Katherine of Aragon was brought James' bloody and torn coat. And so she wrote to Henry, and she sent him the coat along with James' gauntlets and the details of the battles.
Here, honey, I hope you like this.
She wanted to send Henry VIII the king's body, but said the English were a little bit squeamish about that, so she wouldn't. Like, literally, that's the only reason she didn't, was because she said the English were being squeamish about it. Afterwards, there were rumors that James had survived. This one was funny. One rumor stated that the night before, or the week before the battle, he was praying, and a man appeared to him, and the man said his mother had told him to say James should not go to war or take the advice of women. So I'm not sure. Not quite sure what he's supposed to do.
So I told my mom to F off and I came to you.
Right? But then, okay, so he was dead. And so his 17-month-old son was crowned. He was also James. Margaret Tudor was named the guardian, but not the regent. And she was also pregnant with another son named Alexander at the time, who he'd impregnated her before he left. And then the baby was born after he died. So that was one of the big battles. So there was a baby on the throne and things were pretty chill for a minute, but really only a minute because the Scottish like to fight and Henry likes to fight and everybody likes to fight. So then fast forward into the future, which is actually the past. Henry wanted to break with the church and he wanted all of the other monarchs to be like, yeah, you're fucking right. We are in charge and you have every right to break with the church and divorce your wife. Fuck the Pope. Fuck the Popo.
Oh my God.
So he wanted all of them to break as well, including King James V, which was his nephew, but apparently family relations don't mean shit. But James was like, I'm fine with the Pope. He's a pretty cool guy and I've got no problems with him. But then Henry VIII, in his marriage to Catherine Howard, he was really adamant about meeting James in York while he was traveling there. He was like, this is our chance. We can be buddies. We can be busties. Let's totally meet. And James was like, maybe. And then finally was like, nah. So Henry was pissed. And he sent a bunch of troops against Scotland. And James was like, all right, well, fuck you. I'm going to get my own army with blackjack and hookers.
I was waiting for that. Thank you.
They had between 15 and 18,000 troops. So in November 1542, the Scottish entered England. England only had about 3,000 troops. So there's a slight difference in troops there. Luckily, the Scottish are apparently fucking idiots when it comes to battle. And the English was able to pin them in between a river and a marsh. And so they surrendered. The English, guess how many the English lost?
How many was originally?
They had 3,000 troops.
10.
Close.
Whoa, really?
Yep.
Really?
0.
7.
Ha!
Whoa.
And 20 Scottish were taken. 20 Scottish were killed. 1,500 were taken prisoner. And of that 1,500, there were lords and earls and all that shit. So they were taken back to England. They were treated pretty fucking well. Henry invited them to Christmas, and they had their own shit at the party. And Henry even gave them each a present at Christmas. And the present makes me laugh because I feel like it was just a really shitty joke. He gave them each a gold chain. So that made me laugh because I'm like, you're a prisoner, but it's gold. So you can't be upset.
That's how gangs were formed.
And that's when the Crips arose. They have a very storied history in Renaissance England. Fun fact. Henry was a blood. So James was very humiliated at that terrible loss, and he withdrew to a palace and he got a fever. Then his wife gave birth to a girl. And he was even more upset. And it apparently...
How could this day get any worse?
It apparently, quote unquote, crushed his will to live. And he died.
Oh, what a drama queen.
And then he died. And that little girl became Mary Queen of Scots, and things didn't go well for her either, which we've talked about. That's all I had, and that was a very, very short episode.
It was, but I feel like it was jam-packed of information.
It was. We didn't have as much to laugh about.
I mean,
Besides,
war is nothing to laugh about.
Dying from because of the birth of his daughter.
He's such a drama queen. What
Oh my God.
Scottish.
If my wife has another girl, I am literally going to die.
Yeah, basic. That's human insult. I just crushed you. You're crushed. You're devastated. I'm going to check our page and see if there's anything else people have been asking or commenting. We have some really big news in the works, guys. We're super excited about it. I don't want to say too much right now, but I'm really excited about it. And it's going to happen soon. Oh, this is what I wanted to talk about. Somebody recommended that we do an episode of The Other Boleyn Girl, comparing the book to the movie to history. So
That's
Garrett,
a really good idea. Why have we not done that?
I don't fucking know. So Garrett, next time you're here, we're going
Especially when that book is like the reason you got into any of this.
I know. So
How long is that book?
a couple hundred pages.
Really?
I mean, I've got like a tiny little fat copy of it, and it's a couple hundred. So it's, I mean, I could finish it in a week if I picked it up. So here's my thought, Garrett. Next time you're here, we're gonna watch The Other Boleyn Girl.
Okay.
We're gonna record while we're watching it.
Commentary.
We'll do a commentary. We'll edit it down because that would be like a 2-hour episode, and that's a lot. So we'll edit it down and just kind of give people highlights. And
I feel like we could release that as well. We don't edit it down, and people just watch it with the movie.
I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, I would do that.
But then we can also
But then we also do like an actual like. This is housekeeping we should be doing outside of the show, but whatever.
Whatever. People will be excited about this.
Yeah.
And then at the end I'll tell you guys about the book, and then we can talk about the differences. So it'll be a longer episode, but it'll be fucking awesome. I think. What do you think? You want to do
I
it?
think so.
I'm all for it.
Sweet Caroline.
Bah, bah, bah.
Thank you. I'm looking through my messages and I'm not seeing anything. Man.
But no, that's a really good idea for an episode, and it's one that's so obvious that we probably should have gone over that before. So if you guys can think of any other show ideas like that, like anything outside of a normal like format,
Yeah.
you're like, oh hey, why haven't you guys done this yet? We'll be like, of course, why haven't we done that? We'll do it.
Yep, we will. I'm excited for it. There's a shit ton of stuff out there like that. I have a couple other episodes lined up, and guys, we are finally going back to the weekly format. I'm very excited. So this one's going to be a little bit late, but then we'll have the other one next week. It's going to be on time. And I think that's all for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah,
trying to think of
that's all-
anything like
that's all
little
I got.
things. Like, what are you reading right now that's Tudor related? You've been reading something.
I am reading a book called Daughters of the Winter Queen, and it is about Mary, Queen of Scots' granddaughter, who became the Queen of Bohemia for like a hot second, and her daughters. And it is so fascinating. So I got it because my loving brother-in-law got me a gift card to Barnes & Noble for my birthday. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to get a history book. I'm going to get nonfiction. And so Jeff spent an hour in Barnes & Noble with me, and I roamed the shelves, and I picked up 2 books that were nonfiction. I'm sorry, 2 books that were fiction. And then I got to the history section, and I found like 4 books that I wanted instead. So our listeners actually helped me decide what to get. There was one book about
that was great.
King-
You like posted on
I know.
Twitter or something like that, and you just sat there and gained all these
I
responses
know.
from people.
I loved it. So one book I do want to get in the future is about King Charles the First. So I'm excited to read that because I don't really know too much besides the basics about English history after the Tudors. So I'm really excited to learn more. And this book I love because it's just talking about how badass so this woman's name is Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of Bohemia. So fucking cool. So fucking effective as a political.
Where is Bohemia?
Somewhere near Germany. I don't think it exists anymore. But they kept talking about the they kept talking about the border of Germany and France and shit like that. So somewhere
We should do like some episodes where you just kind of like at least talk about if you like finished a book that's history, kind of give a quick like
okay.
what you think about it. And that way
What did I just finish? I just finished.
it could be either an
I just
episode or it can be like
finished-
a end of episode thing like we're doing right now.
I mean, I
Just
can
something
talk
you can
about.
say.
I did just finish The King's Obsession, and I had gotten that audiobook. It's the Alison Weir series about Henry VIII's wives, and I had gotten the audiobook last summer. I'd gotten the audiobook that was about Katherine of Aragon first, and I hated the narrator so fucking much. She just adopted this really weird voice for all the male characters, and like they were very blustery, and I hated it. So I got through the Katherine of Aragon one, and then I got the audiobook for the Anne Boleyn one, A King's Obsession, and it was the exact same narrator. So I was like, I can't fucking do it. So I got like an hour into the audiobook, and I was like, I can't. So I returned it, and then I found the physical copy of the book at a Half Price Books. Go check out Half Price Books, guys. And so I flew through that one really quickly. And that one had a very different take on Anne Boleyn. So I know we've talked about this a little bit before, about Anne's motives for marrying Henry. They usually fall one of two ways. Either she didn't love him at all and was just kind of coerced by family and by, of course, her fucking king to become his wife. And then the other idea is that at first she was like, I'll just do it because it's a cool opportunity, but then she actually fell in love with him. That's my theory. I think she actually ended up loving him. But this book's take on it was very much like, first of all, everybody's a fucking rapist. Spoilers, sorry guys. But she was very like, she lived in the court of Austria for a little while, serving the queen there, and the queen was very educated, and so she exposed her maids to new types of learning and treating that and telling women like, you can be smart and independent and you don't only have to be a man's wife. There's more to women than that. I'm proof of it. And so the whole premise of the book is that she's just like, I'm not interested in men. I don't really care about getting married, which would explain why she was single up until her early 20s when she should have been married as a teen. And then it kind of goes out into like Henry met her and was like infatuated with her, and she just had no interest, and so she kept putting him off because she could not care less about him. She didn't like him. She didn't care for any of the gifts. She didn't care for any of the attention. She was not a fan of it. She didn't even want to be married at that point. And then he all of a sudden proposed to her, and she was like, but wait, I could be queen. So the whole premise was that Anne did not give a shit about Henry. She just appreciated the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of people by becoming queen. So that's
Okay.
That's this book's. And one thing that really does irritate me is Alison Weir she wrote Anne as having a sixth finger, and it just drives me fucking nuts.
The gall.
I can't. I mean, she's a historian, and it's a fictional book, so you can do what you want. But it's just that sixth finger story bothers me. It's as irritating as George is gay. It came out during Elizabeth's reign, and one argument that I keep going back to, I can't remember which historian provided this argument. Physical deformities were often seen as a sign of a witch. So Henry VIII, if he saw somebody with a sixth fucking finger, would not have gone near her.
Well, yeah, it's like you feel like it's just more just things that at the time was just put slander onto her.
It was. And it's like, God, I want to talk to Alison Weir and be like, tell me why the sixth finger. It's just, I don't understand how that story, I mean, I understand how it keeps going. It's because people continue to write it in. I just don't understand the reason behind writing it in. Like, it doesn't make her interesting. Maybe it's exploring the what if it actually was true that she had a sixth finger. And I guess a ton of historical documents were destroyed by Henry after he butchered his wife because he didn't want to remember her, but still bothers me. So that was a really interesting book. And then I also read another book called Game of Queens. And that one I loved. I flew through that one really quickly. And that is all about how the 16th century saw this incredible influx of females with power. So Isabella of Castile was not 16th century. She was 15th century, end of. But she was so fucking badass. And she kind of waved in this group of really strong women who were badass. So Katherine of Aragon, who we talked about in today's episode, she kind of had her mom's warrior spirit. And you could see that in her resilience against Henry, but also in her fuck the Scottish attitude that she was taking and her desire to, I mean, she served as an ambassador during Henry VII's time on the throne. And she's the first female to ever be an ambassador. Like, she was officially named ambassador. But then the 16th century saw Margaret of Austria and Mary de Guise and Catherine de Medici and Louise of something, I can't remember her name, but just all these really powerful badass women who ruled in some way, shape, or form. So Margaret of Austria was actually ruling. She wasn't a queen, but she was set up as the ruler. And then Catherine de Medici ruled through her children as they were young king, like baby kings. And then it did talk a little bit about the power Katherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn had. And then you'll see Henry totally stripped that kind of power away from his future wives and was like, this ain't happening again. And then how after the 16th century, women became very much, I mean, before the 16th century, they even had political influence. Like in the 1500s, 1400s, 1300s, they still had some sort of political influence. They weren't just a pretty face. They were expected to champion causes, usually something church related. But that's why they were used in marriages, was because that, like, if England married their English daughter to a Scottish, then the daughter should try and persuade the Scottish towards an English alliance. And Catherine of Aragon should have been able to try and get Henry VIII towards a Spanish alliance. But after the 1500s is when that changed and that stopped happening. And then after that, you don't see women playing that role at all. They try. Well, I guess that's not really true, but they become less and less powerful over the centuries. I was just talking about Elizabeth of Bohemia being a badass and leading, but that was after her husband croaked. So sorry. This is my Emily corner.
Yeah, no kidding.
So anyway, Game of Queens, very good book. It's nonfiction. I flew through it. I don't think I've read a nonfiction that quickly in a long time. And Anne Boleyn, A King's Obsession. That was a pretty good one. It was okay. Oh, the ending is super graphic. I mean, we all know how Anne dies, but this is first person perspective, so super graphic ending. Not pleasant. And I'll probably finish the other book before we record, so I'll have another book review
Next
for you.
book report.
Yeah. Then we'll do it with the other Boleyn girl. It'll be a blast.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
A good time will be had. I'm looking forward to it too. I rewatched that movie last summer, and I was like, "Oh Jesus, this is awful." So I'm super pumped for you to be here now, Garrett. That you know some of the
It's
actual
just fine
history.
knowing like it's Scarlett Johansson, Natalie Portman being British,
And Andrew Garfield.
but at least he actually is British.
Yeah, but it's so funny because
I can't believe they gave the role of a British woman to Scarlett Johansson. She just can't stop taking these roles.
She started back in 2008 with this shit.
I that's one of my favorite memes that I see anymore.
I know.
It's like, man, who's gonna play Superman now?
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson's free.
The cast of that movie: Eric Bana, Scarlett Johansson, Natalie Portman, Andrew Garfield.
Really?
Yeah.
You must have been a baby back then.
He was so itty looking. And the thing is, he's wearing all that giant padded clothing, so his head looks so tiny.
Okay.
Visualizing like a vulture. It's like
It's-
all this like
it
big
is,
fluff and butt,
it
and then there's like
is.
this little weird bare head just like
Yes.
sticking out from it.
Yes, that is exactly what it is. But
But a very handsome vulture.
no, I'm excited for you to be here so we can do that.
His head's so tiny.
Did you just look it up?
Yeah.
It's so tiny.
He's so tiny.
So next time you're here, Garrett, we're going to do that. It'll be a blast.
Okay. I'm stoked.
Me too. Okay, now I think I'm done.
Okay.
Unless Jeff asks
All right.
me another question.
No, I'm afraid to now because it'll be another 20 minutes.
That
I'm sure
literally,
I'm sure the listeners would be happy
that
with
literally
that.
added 15 minutes.
But that
You
means
asked
20
me
more. That means 20 more minutes. Jeff has to sit there and listen through
again.
again.
You love it because you love me. Garrett, do you have any questions about the battles of Scotland or England or Tudors or anything?
I think I'm good.
Sweet. Find us on Twitter at Tudor Know Her and on Facebook at Tudor I Hardly Know Her. Thanks for this awesome influx of new listeners. We're super excited to have you guys here. That's it, right?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
pretty sure.
think so.
Rate and review us.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
That's the important one.
Tell your friends.
That way, if shit gets fucked up, you can still listen to the episode. Tell your friends. I actually do think that a huge part of the reason we're getting more listeners is because
I like everyone who like tags us in like other people's posts about things.
I-
I saw like someone in the comments put us in the comments
Yep.
for like podcasts you should be listening to. Like BuzzFeed posted
saw
something
that.
about that. And they posted us
Okay.
and the Queen's podcast too. So
yep. And
I'm
So-
so glad to hear they're still
fun-
going.
So I saw that and thought that we were on that list and almost shit
no.
myself.
Oh my god, I would have shit myself. No, but I did see I was on Reddit and I was at under the Tudor history subreddit, and somebody was asking. This was like a week ago. Somebody was asking for podcast recommendations, and somebody recommended ours, and I found that recommendation was a week ago, and I found that Reddit like 2 days ago. So you guys are awesome. We love you. It's super cool that you like listening and are excited for the weekly episodes to be back.
Yay.
So,
Mhm. It'll be a good time.
yeah, when we win an Emmy for podcasting, ugh,
A potty.
Well, thank
Wait,
you.
no, not that.
a potty. Let's make those a thing. So until next time,
Until next time.
Until next time.
divorced,
Divorced,
beheaded, died.
died.
Divorced, beheaded,
survived.
survived. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.